This is going to be about the conventions of short film. So, there's a theory called the narrative theory by Vladimir Prop. So his theory is commonly used in short films. It was created around 80 years ago. However, some of his characters can be applied to many modern film narratives. So the theory has 8 main characters, which is the hero, the false hero, the princess, the father of the princess, the helper, the villain, donor, and the dispatcher. Each of these character types have a specific role in the narrative. Sometimes one character may take more than one role. Furthermore, it shouldn't be assumed that the princess should be a woman or even a human, because it could have a goal or reward which they are trying to achieve. So the princess is basically the goal. Furthermore, my film will essentially include this, although it isn't really a story about one's journey, it's a story about journey of an ideal. So I will try and incorporate this, although it may not be as appropriate in my short film. So origins of short film. So short film have to be original, and they have to have original ideas created by the right director to remain fresh and engaging to the target audience. However, they may be able to combine different genres together, which help the film stay fresh and up to date. So the idea of my short film is to motivate my audience, so they know that when they're down, they can just simply get over it, or simply when times are tough, life's worth living. Short film are usually created for a specific purpose, usually to please a passion or interest. The director of a short film will usually use the idea of educating the audience in the specific genre they have chosen, which allows them to think and review what they've seen, which allows them to draw their own conclusions of what the genre could be. So again, my own film will use this because it'll sort of have an underlying thought process behind it, to create sort of like quite a motivated effect, or sort of like depression and happiness. So again, it would be quite real, which gets me to my next point of realism. So in most short films, a degree of realism must be followed to allow audiences to really connect with the film. This applies to all genres of film. For example, in animation, the storyline must be fairly realistic, so the characters are believed and the audience can be engaged and connect to the film. This applies to other genres of film, such as thriller or drama, because the storyline or characters must be realistic for the audience to understand and engage with them. Otherwise, the film wouldn't connect with the target audience and the films may be misunderstood. In my short film, it is going to be very realistic. This is mainly due to the fact that it's going to be motivational video for the audience, and it's realistic because people deal with death quite a lot in life. We're constantly with films going, with family going, so it's very realistic and very relatable, I feel, in my eyes. So auteur directing as well is another convention. The auteur director is a director of a film who has a significant and unique style, which makes their own filmmaking very recognisable, may even overcome a huge unique selling point for the film itself. For example, in the film Run by Howard Freeman, the camera work is very unique and it focuses on the facial expression and the footwork of an athlete, which helps and explain why some would go through what some would go through and motivate enough for them. So again, there's a shot I'm planning, because it's sort of about love and memory and loss, where a camera sort of goes down a hall and goes through a photo book and then looks at the photo book, and I'm going to project the start of my short film through there. So it's like a memory basically. Then mise en scene is another convention. So this is another important convention of any short film, because it doesn't match the overall mood of the film, and this could really affect the film. So for example, if I was to create a horror film, the lighting would have to be dark and costumes, makeup dark and scary. However, without this, it would end up making it look quite bright and lighting, and the main character wearing trainers and a bright shirt for it, this wouldn't be scary and sort of I'd go with it. So because I'm making quite a happy but depressing film, I'd be using sort of great clothing, sort of atmosphere and life. So yeah, that's just the conventions of short film basically. New post coming soon. Have a nice day. Bye.